Welcome to another episode of the Market Makers in Middle East and Africa podcast. I am your host Abrar Hussain. Today I speak to Andrea Prazakova, Senior Vice President at MasterCard. Andrea, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Avrar. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Andrea, a successful career across decades, and now you are a senior leader at MasterCard, one of the largest financial company in the world. Tell us about your story.
So I am Czech from Czech Republic. That's where I was born. So maybe a couple of facts about me, right? So here is my fourth continent I live in. I obviously lived in Czech Republic, Austria, Slovakia, Indonesia, and Africa. And now in Middle East. 23 years of banking. I don't know if I would say, it was the dark side and then I come from the light side. But with MasterCard for the last 8 years, really, had some great experiences throughout my banking career. I was 10 years with Raiffeisen International, where I started on a branch as a teller in Austria in a small village of 600 people. And then I led sales and channel development for 11 markets in Eastern Europe, which was really amazing, setting up standards for branches and for service level agreements. And in 2002, I joined Erste Bank, which is another Austrian bank. They are in, I think, 21 markets in Eastern Europe. And I set up a division for customer experience, this is 20 years ago. Think about it. It was quite innovative at that time. And then I moved to Indonesia for a little bit and then moved to Africa, fall in love with Africa like many people do in 2008. And worked for IFC for 2 years, did due diligence on retail banks where IFC did the investments in. And then I spent 7 years as a group head of retail and SME banking for Bank ABC, and I managed Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, Tanzania, and Mozambique. I think it was the coolest learning I ever had. It was just like incredible, setting up bank from zero during financial crisis of 2008. What a journey that was. And then I got a call from Caris Richards from MasterCard, and in 2015, I came to Dubai for an interview, and I remember it. I came home and I said to my husband, and Raghu Malhotra was interviewing me. I said, I really want to work for that guy. And I did. My first 2 years, I worked on strategic ecosystems for MasterCard, and then moved into experience because I'm a certified design thinker and service designer. And now I lead innovation and ESG and gaming for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Perfect.
And, I am a fanatic learner and Web3 and blockchain and innovation enthusiast, and never stop.
Perfect. What a journey, Andrea. So at MasterCard, you're driving innovation, CX, UI, and MasterCard Foundry. So tell us about your role at MasterCard.
So I said I'm looking after three areas. One is Foundry, which is innovation. So maybe two examples from that space. One is, we bringing experimentation internally and externally. So externally, we lead MasterCard experience centers where we invite customers physically and virtually to experience the latest trends and innovation in the industry. And of course, internal experimentation, right? Working with teams on things like Web3, metaverse, gaming, and so on, and, bringing the juices and the energy out. A second area in the Foundry on the innovation is a lot around UI, UX, and CX design. And you might just ask yourself how the B2B company, wants to influence that. And we really started to go into it over the last couple of years, where we discovered that we need to start to influence our partners and maybe bring some best practices and research-based user experiences in order for our products to be on top of the list. The second area is ESG. Where I am looking after, Priceless Planet Coalition, Carbon Calculator, and Donate platforms, which are all collectively contributing to our ESG goals as a MasterCard. And then a little bit of a side hobby is the gaming, which I started to, dig deeper about 2 years ago, which is obviously a super exciting area and would deserve its own podcast. But yes, that's what I do.
Now, coming to the innovation part and the customer experience. So, can you talk about some of the partnerships or the collaboration that MasterCard has undertaken to improve customer experience and drive innovation?
So maybe let me not talk about Mastercard, but maybe how the technology which we provide delivers great experiences and impact. So one of the examples which I particularly like is a solution which is called Community Pass, right? So imagine if you are a farmer in Uganda, and in the past, obviously, you have one phone for the whole family, and you would most probably not have digital records. So you can't get funding from a bank. You don't know what subsidies you are entitled to. You don't have any information about, when do you should farm, how to put pesticides in the earth if you should, and many other things. So the technology which we brought now, and we have globally 4 million users, which out of this 3 million actually sits in Middle East and Africa, and 1 million is India. So today with the Community Pass, we partner with the farmers aggregators like Yo Uganda, for example, or Roland's Day in India. And they help us to access the farmer, right? So you as a farmer, as a holder of that Community Pass or Farmer Pass, right? You don't need the telephone, which is incredible, right? Because today everybody thinks you need a telephone, but don't forget you only have one across your whole family. So you will get onboarded through our partners, and every transaction you do with that MasterCard, it's confirmed by your biometrics, right? So nobody can use it. For anything you do, you need your biometrics. You need to be physically present. The information which you receive, number one, is very important for you. You can start to be paid fairly, right, for your crops. So in the past, if you would have your tomatoes or your carrots or your cotton, you brought it to a floor, you might not get the right price for the right quality. Today, everything is digitally collected and you get paid instantly. And for example, in India, we saw a growth of 20% on revenues on farmers using Farm Pass because they get fair prices, right? Secondly, you develop a digital record for yourself. So a bank can lend to you, and then they deduct the payment for your loan from the receipts you're getting from your farming. You get the recommendation how and when to plant, when to sell the crops, and so on. And positively also, you can have records for your vaccination for your children. You can pay school fees. So I think it's a really game changer. And what I liked about it, is we all about apps today, right? I think this was built exactly understanding the user journey. Sometimes the lack of technology available, it works offline, so you don't need to have data. So I think that's a really great example how our technology in partnership with local partners enables a community which really needs it and has a positive impact.
Wow, great, great. Thank you for sharing this, Andrea. Now, coming to ESG, which is kind of taking a center stage for people, for corporates, and for governments. I read that in 2021, MasterCard pushed forward its goal to reach zero emissions to 2040. So, can you tell us what MasterCard is doing to accelerate and achieve this goal?
Yes, so we are very brave. We have a first payment technology provider, which obviously committed to net zero by 2040, and also the first network which introduced a regulation that by 2028 our issuers only can issue sustainable cards, right? Which is really great movement. There are 3 billion MasterCards floating around the world. So that's number one. And number two, I think it's, what are we actually doing about it, right? So let me maybe speak about two main areas which we're doing. One is the decarbonization of our operation, and second is sustainable supply. So on the first one, we are a technology company, so globally we have about 180 data centers, right? So across these data centers, we obviously looking on renewable energy, solar powered energy, and so on. So as an example, in United States, all our data center today are powered by solar, and all the areas where we have offices today globally are certified by LEED.
So you just mentioned, Andrea, about sustainable cards, and Mastercard is the pioneer in adopting sustainable cards. So what is sustainable cards, and what has been the response in the region from the issuers and from the public as well?
Okay, so let me maybe start with the first part of the question. I really like that whole theme because it's amazing. For me personally, it also changes how we represent each other, right? So if in the past you would flash your metal card and that would mean something, right? Which represents your wealth, right? If you flash a bamboo card, it represents your values. So I think that there is a whole change also from perception, how we as humans are represented, which brings me to the materials. There is multiple different materials and different levels of recycling. So MasterCard, we have couple of initiatives there. So number one, we set up so-called Green Payment Partnership, where we onboarded all the payment card producers, which we partner. We do certification of cards, and we also have a lab which experiments and certified how recyclable the card is, right? You can go from a recyclable card, RPVC, you can have a bamboo card, you can have a wood card, you can have a card which is made out of plastic bottles which were collected in some part of the ocean, right? So there is a multiple different variances, and of course it impacts the cost, right? It could be 5 to 10% over your traditional plastic to 30 to 50%. But I think it also offers a great opportunity for the issuers to differentiate from a, let's say, segmentation perspective, right? Maybe I will not give the most expensive recyclable card to standard customers, but maybe I will give it to an ultra high net worth, right? And it's a great conversation starter if you flash it, right? Where the card came from. In terms of numbers, I mentioned, I think before, that we have about 3 billion MasterCards around the world. That's a massive number, right? If I think about the size of the population. Now, currently by end of Q1 2023, we have about 209 million issued sustainable cards. So there's still a long way to go. We have until 2028 to start to replace all of them. And then within the region, we are about 9.6 million, right, cards. So you can see that the region here, it's still quite behind, but the pace is picking up, especially with COP28 and obviously Dubai being the host. In terms of number of issuers, it's also interesting, right? So globally, already 386 issuers signed up to issue cards. On an EMEA level, we have 19.
Perfect. That's a great kind of numbers and great contribution to the ESG. Now, coming to the offices that you have in the region, in the Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So, how are those offices contributing to your ESG drive?
So we mentioned already, some of the activities we're doing about renewable energy, and that goes across the world. But there are also small actions that each of the offices can contribute, right? So number one is, if you come next to us, visit us here in Internet City, or any other offices, you will not see plastic bottles, right? If you come, we will serve you water in glass, and the gas is filtered water, right? So there's no plastic whatsoever. And then, changes like that the lights goes off and so on. And we even have a so-called green gang around our offices, where, we are ideating how even further obviously make positive changes and small changes within the offices. I mean, but like many big corporations, right? We recycle, we divide, how we recycle and so on.
Okay, perfect. Now, while we are driving sustainability, I believe technology plays a role in that. So, how MasterCard is leveraging technology to drive sustainability in the financial industry?
I will speak about one of the products because it's a great example. It's called Carbon Calculator. So we have a partnership with a really exciting Swedish company, which is called Duconomy. And we partner with them on a technology called Carbon Calculator. So what does it mean for you, for example, right? Is you as a consumer, you are able to see what your carbon footprint is. Now, that shouldn't obviously scare you. So let me maybe bring it alive with an example. And I use that example very often. I think by now they should start to pay me for it, but So it's an example of one of our partners in Europe, in UK. They are called EKKO, EKKO, right? So they took a very different spin on the technology. So they, using our carbon calculator, they onboarded to priceless planet condition for offsetting into trees, and they also partner with Prevent Ocean Plastic. So you as a consumer, you sign up, and it's almost like a subscription model, right? And every time. And maybe even when you came here, you said you were at Starbucks, right? So you tapped at Starbucks, right? Or maybe just did this. We don't tap anymore, we do this, right? So every time you do this or this, right, you positively impact the planet. So what they do is that every 5 taps, you prevent one bottle to end up in the ocean, and every 50 taps you plant a tree. An average customer plants about 50 trees, and 500 bottles are taken out of or prevented to end up in the ocean. And I think this is a great example of how a technology, can not only be used for education and showing you what possibly your negative impact is, but educate you and empower you to have a positive impact on the planet.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a very good example, India, where if I, as a consumer, go to a Starbucks, for example, or any other shop, and if I do 5 taps or 5 transactions, I prevent one bottle going to the ocean, which is
Yeah,
quite
yes.
great.
And what I like about, our technology, right, is it depends on you as a partner. What magic do you do with it, right? So, for example, let's assume you have a bank, right? Or you have fintech. So you can decide that you will have your customers compete. So you in your application then showcases how many bottles did Abrar, prevented, or trees. I should talk about trees because that's Mastercard. So how many trees did you planted versus Andrea? Maybe
Yeah.
you are much better or than me, or
Wow.
vice versa, right? So and it's I think that where I see it also being super powerful is with youth, because you can start to educate children and bring them up with awareness, right?
Yeah. You spoke about a few very interesting things: sustainable cards, then the carbon calculator, how technology is impacting all of us in a positive way. Can you share some other initiatives as well which MasterCard is undertaking to drive ESG?
I want to share one example, which actually, when I, read about the initiative first, it made me cry. So I hope I will not cry today. So I spoke a little bit about Priceless Planet Coalition, and Mastercard committed to plant 100 million trees by 2025. It's a great pledge which we did as an organization. Now we have 140 plus partners globally who joined the coalition. The coalition is started by Mastercard and Conservation International, who obviously guarantees that the trees are planted in the right place, that they will not be taken out of not cut down in 6 months, that it's our right types of trees, which will not demolish the biodiversity. So one practical example of it is a project which we are doing in Malawi, right? So in Malawi, we're doing a project with World Institute and Wells for Zoe to restore about 2,500 hectares of area in Malawi, right? Why is it so important? And why did I cry, right? So I'm a woman and I'm a mother. I have 2 kids. Dante is 12, in his head turning 17, and Leonardo is 10, right? So these women in Malawi and their daughters, they walk every day, multiple kilometers to bring water, because obviously the area where they live was, all the trees were cut down. So the area obviously doesn't have the capacity to maintain water. So by restoring these 2,500 hectares, it will not only create many jobs, right? In the nurseries, right? In the controls. Then once the tree grows, a lot of you will be able to harvest fruits or mushrooms, whatever. Majority of that will be done by women and for women, right? So by driving projects like this, we ultimately enable women SMEs. We enable you, instead of walking kilometers to get water, we will be enable you to start their own business, and ultimately sends your daughter to school, right? And not carry your daughter with you and having them carry water as well. And I think this is super powerful initiative. So it's not, it's not always about the E only, right? Because this initiative impacts the E, which is the environment, but massively the S, and I think these are beautiful example how you can combine them and positively impact the community and women.
Oh yeah, there's a initiative which definitely has a very big impact, and it drives the social part and the women empowerment. Let's talk about more about women empowerment and what else Mastercard is doing on the women empowerment.
That's a great question. I don't know if I can stop if I start. Okay, so we have many commitments in terms of women. We believe in diversity, and one of our targets is to bring 25 million women MSMEs into a digital world. We standing according to our last sustainability report on about 18 million. So we are by 2025, which is we are far ahead of a target, right? We have multiple other initiatives. The second area is Women Leaders Awards. We started in Middle East and Africa, and it supports women SMEs across 22 categories, right? Retail, technology, hospitality, and so on. It really is to showcase and empower and lift women. One area which I really like is the activity which we started in Saudi Arabia. It's a limited podcast, and you as a podcaster will appreciate it, which is called Her Voice. When we're bringing up female SMEs within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to speak about their stories. And one area which I'm personally super passionate about it is Girls in Tech, right? So this is an initiative where we bring girls into technology. Our target is about 5 million girls. We are on 3.8 million, something like that. It runs in 60 countries globally. In over 20 languages, including Arabic. And, I think that it really helps to not only educate the girls, but demystify the technology space. I give you a great example. So I'm just doing certification at MIT as a chief sustainability officer, right? And we have a cohort with multiple other areas. So it's chief sustainability officer, chief product officer, chief technology officer, and chief technology and innovation officer. So 4. Across that, over 200 people, there were about 20 or 22% women only. That shows that the topics around innovation, technology, and so on are mainly still perceived to be a male-dominated industry. And I think with activities like Girls for Tech, it really changes the balance and the perception that tech is as much for girls as for boys. There is no difference whatsoever. And I think it's also obviously something where we feel super passionate about.
So now coming to the banking and financial industry as a whole, how do you see it changing in coming 5 to 10 years? I see a lot of innovation happening and many things are changing in this industry.
I love that question. Thank you. So I think it's the changes will be massive, right? I mean, me being a banker for 23 years, I can only dream about it, right? So let's dream together, right? Let's have a joint dream for a couple of minutes, right? So I've been just in a branch yesterday, right? So, and there is a lot of noise, a lot of paper about time stamping, a lot of unofficial inefficient processes and so on. So with, machine learning, generative AI, open banking, and many other technologies which aren't currently here, this will not be necessary, immersive experiences, right? So I can imagine that in tomorrow's world, I will not have to do that anymore, right? So if I don't think 5 years, but maybe let's dream a little bit further, right? So with open banking, you will be able to consolidate everything about yourself. And I don't mean only finances, right? So with help of Web3, which enables you to tokenize and put many things on blockchain, let's imagine you have your own wallet, which will be powered maybe by one of the institutions, right? And inside you will not have only your finances like you have today, but you will have your health data, which will be tokenized. You will have tokens for your cars, for your houses, for your shoes, for your watches, for your art which is in your house, right? You will be able to have your NFTs inside. So you will have a lot of data inside, right? And with Web3, you own your own data. You already do it now, but obviously we're not harvesting it the way we should. So the banks will compete for you, right? So I'm just in process of buying a house. Hopefully it will work, as they say in this region, inshallah. So instead of me going to multiple areas, I will walk through maybe an immersive experience into an MR office, and I will experience the house, even an existing house, right, in a virtual environment, be able to imagine how my furniture will look inside. And then I will give approval to my data broker, right, which could be a bank as well, to expose my data to multiple different banks, right? And they will be able to instantly approve a loan, which I could again approve and disburse. And then the token of the house will move from the wallet of the previous owner to my wallet because it's a smart contract, right? Because it's on blockchain, will define that I cannot sell that token until I fully repay the mortgage, right? But what I can really see, endless opportunities. I think that you can, as a banker, you can either be scared or you can be just enormously excited, right? So I'm more on the excited side because I'm asking myself, what can I do with it? How can I be first? How can I, how can I be the data broker? How can I invest into these technologies much faster than anybody else? Experiment, fail, and just do it, right? Like Nike says, just do it. So I think it's exciting times ahead. I think from consumer perspective, well, will be much more transparency, fast. It will be always much, much faster than we are experiencing today.
And as we are talking about banking and finance and the innovation in it, how do you see fintechs? Many fintechs across the world and in the region as well, peer-to-peer lending, digital wallets, BNPL. Do you see them as a competition, or do you see them a party to collaborate with when I'm talking about you and MasterCard?
So we strongly believe in partnership with fintechs. We have a staff path program which promotes fintechs, and we invest in some of the fintechs. I feel that fintechs are absolutely amazing. They very brave. They experiment. They go into spaces where big corporates, for many different reasons, cannot go even and innovate themselves. So I feel that the partnerships is super critical. What the corporate organization bring is capital, reach in the different markets, governance, and so on. But definitely, I'm a strong believer that fintechs are super important, and we see that many of these innovations we have today happen because of thinking which came from a fintech organizations.
My last question, Andrea, it's a very interesting role from customer experience, innovation, ESG. What do you love most about your role working at MasterCard?
I think that I have the best job, but don't tell my colleagues. I think what it allows me is in my small world to experiment, right, and to think about things which you often don't have time when you run specific product line or specific country, and that I really love. I like, and I said it in the introduction, I am a fanatic learner. And I have actually FOMO every day. I don't know how you feel about it, but there's so much every day. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I know so little. I need to read one more book and read one more article. So, and my job allows me to do it, right? Allows me, and my manager, Gaurang Shah, he is absolutely amazing. He allows me to do that as well. And I think that, combination of an organization which obviously empowers women, leadership which supports innovative and experimental approach, it's great. So, I really like my role because it's in the new space, and that's my element. I like to start new things, and I'm lucky that I always end up in organizations which allow me to do that.
Perfect. Andrea, pleasure to have you. And it was a great conversation. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I was delighted.
Thank you.